www.unwater.org, 783 million people do not have access to clean water. That's roughly 11% of the total population. Most people want access to clean drinking water. If people, including yourselves, want access to clean drinking water, then you should participate on a local level by voting for policies and local officials that will take action to prevent water pollution. All three of us are students here at NDSU from different backgrounds and different expertise, but we do all have one thing in common. We all need water, which is why we're going to talk about the water crisis with you today. Today we will talk about some of the problems that can arise from the clean water crisis, some causes of the clean water crisis, and some solutions to the clean water crisis. To begin, Tony will discuss some of the problems of the clean water crisis.
Yes, thank you, Janessa. Today I am here to talk to you about the problems of the clean water crisis here in the United States. There are two extreme examples of water pollution that I would like to speak about today. One, the first, in Flint, Michigan, and second, in Toledo, Ohio. Now, in Flint, Michigan, the lead levels rose to an all-time high. The city had many problems with old pipes that caused the lead levels to rise significantly. In the blood of children and adults, the lead levels were found to be peaking at greater than 5 micrograms per deciliter, which is far beyond the healthy limit. And this was in the tail end of 2015, meaning this is still a recent fresh problem that we are still dealing with. According to the International Journal of Environmental Research, higher lead levels and pollution were found near the center of the city in Flint, Michigan, as opposed to less high levels near the outskirts. This means that individuals living near the center of the city had a much higher chance and a higher risk of contracting lead poisoning. Lead poisoning itself is very dangerous, and high lead levels in the blood can cause neurological, behavioral, and physical damage, such as a loss of hair, damage to all bodily organs and functions, unborn babies in the womb being affected, and can even lead to death. Now, in my second example of Toledo, Ohio, they issued on August 1st of 2014 a citywide do not drink water contamination advisory. A sample from the nearby Lake Erie was found to contain harmful bacteria and algal blooms. The officials of the city were not prepared and were not able to deal with this problem quickly enough, and they faced much public backlash. The city itself had to accept water donations for many months while trying to deal with this problem. The algal blooms themselves are very toxic and can cause respiratory disease, death of living cells, and can even lead to death if not treated quickly enough. Madison will speak to you about the causes now.
I will now talk about the causes of the water crisis in both these towns. First off, in Flint, Michigan, in order to save money, they made budget cuts. Including in these budget cuts was changing the water that came from Detroit, Michigan to a different water source coming from the Flint River. Because these two water sources are treated completely different, they reacted differently to the piping, allowing more lead to flow through coming from the Flint River. The community saw this change in the water right away and brought it up to the local officials and government. Instead of approaching the problem, they turned their backs to it, saying that it was not a big deal and the water is safe to drink. Later on, children became sick, and blood tests showed that there was a high level of lead in their blood, meaning that they were having lead poisoning. Once again, the city officials and the health officials also ignored this problem, saying that it was not from the water, it was from the season changes. This was not the case. It was from the water. In my next example, in Toledo, Ohio, the algae bloom gave off a toxic runoff. Because of this, it caused the water to become polluted. This toxin is not regulated by the EPA, and if it was regulated by the EPA, they would have been able to approach this problem way sooner than they had, and the outcome would have been very different than what it was. Now my partner Janessa will talk about the solutions to the water crisis.
All right, I'm going to talk about a few of the solutions to the water crisis here in the United States. First is water risk management plans and strategies, and the second is how voting for policies and local officials can combat the clean water crisis. According to an article published by Environmental Science and Technology 2016, U.S. water resources are so diverse, yet we use uniform policies across the nation. Our policies and plans need to be as individualized and unique as our water resources. So now that we know that our plans need to be individualized, let's take a look at some of the steps involved in a water risk management plan. According to the journal Sustainability 2015, there are 3 broad steps in developing a water safety plan. First is the source assessment. This is where you monitor the water from source to consumer, and you identify potential areas that are vulnerable to contamination. The second is operational control measures, and this is easier to explain as an example. In Toledo, Ohio, if they wanted to implement an operational control measure, they would have identified that the agricultural fertilizer runoff was a potential source for contamination. They would have then implemented better agricultural practices to prevent that runoff. The third step is management and communication. This is where you document your source assessment and your operational control measures. You also make your routine operations more efficient, and you also prepare for emergency procedures. So you, your coworkers, and your area and your community members know what to do in case of a water emergency. Now I will talk to you about the policies and local officials and how voting can help to combat the clean water crisis. First, policies. Be aware and informed on measures that appear on your ballot. Vote for policies that provide and promote clean water and regulate pollution. It's important that you think critically about measures that appear on your ballot because a lot of times they're worded ambiguously. Second, know who your local officials are and vote for local officials that will take action to prevent the clean water crisis in your area. According to Sustainability, the journal in 2015, the groups need to be developed to develop this water safety plan, and they need to be diverse in their expertise, and they also need to have political authority, which is very important and why you should vote for your local officials that will designate a group to develop this water safety plan so that they can actually get things accomplished in your area. So now that I've discussed water risk management plans and strategies and how voting for policies and local officials can combat the clean water crisis, Tony will wrap up what we have discussed.
Yes, thank you. We want you guys to actively participate on a local level. We want you to do research and support voting for your local officials and policies that support good water and good water management plans. We talked about the problems and the health problems that can come from contaminated water. We talked about the causes and how it can start. We talked about the solutions and what you can do, and now we want you to vote. We want you to be prepared for any water procedures, water contamination procedures, and the correct plans. And we want you to get to be active in your local community. Water is a resource that everyone needs, and would you rather drink clean water or dirty, contaminated